mimetic humor or meme humor and ironic humor of Gen Z, my generation. I'm considered an older Gen Z member because I was born at the very beginning. I could even consider it the telltale end of the millennial generation, but I don't really identify with much of the millennial like ideal and stuff like that. I grew up with them. I grew up with the younger millennials, but I don't really relate to them too heavily because of our sense of humor, because of our philosophies, and because of what we as a cohort generally philosophize about and think is important. I identify with Gen Z with that, and we are the kings and queens and others of mimetic humor and ironic humor. We essentially were the postmodern generation, following behind the almost neo-modernist, I feel like, approach that millennials took. So metamodernism is, to me, is damn near Gen Alpha in creation. I know you guys have probably heard of skibidi toilet, that whole phrasing and everything. That is a perfect example of metamodernism to me, because what does that mean? It doesn't have a meaning. It's just some like derpy way of expressing like, I mean, I know it comes from a web series, but like that, that idealism of using nonsensical language in day-to-day conversation, but also being dead ass about it, And I love that metamodernism refuses to silo itself to one aspect of our modern day experience. It refuses to, what I feel like is a shortcoming of modernism and postmodernism, which is it fails to simply critique, or try to look beyond a different way of thinking, and it instead tries to integrate it. And it's one of the first, in what I've studied about modernism and metamodernism and contemporaneism. I don't even know if that's a word. Contemporaneism. I think that's what it is. Y'all know what I'm trying to say. Studying the different like philosophy movements of history and like the history of philosophy. Metamodernism is the only one that to me really has truly made a wholehearted effort to integrate various generations of thinking into one. And I feel like that's the hallmark of this generation as well. Outside of philosophy, in media, in entertainment, in consumption, you can see younger generations, the younger Gen Z and Gen Alpha as a whole. You can see them rediscovering old media, or rediscovering what to us has become classic media, or media from bygone years. They're looking at the 2000s with rose-colored glasses when they were barely born, or some of them weren't even born. There's this appreciation, rediscovery of, classic, culturally significant works, and melding it with the very like non-serious, kind of casual, ironic style that I feel like is so prevalent in youth culture nowadays. And maybe that's because of gaming. Maybe it's because of, of really the mainstreaming of nerd culture that's taken place over the past, 5 years or so. I don't know if that's what it is, but it's really refreshing to see. And it's something that's really captivated me during the making of this album. I've decided over the past couple weeks that subconsciously I've been inspired by metamodernism long before I knew what to call it. And I've long been an adherent of metamodernism before I knew what to call it. I liked the ideals of postmodernism because I love being ironic and I love subverting people's expectations. But I also really appreciate the structure and the tried and true lessons of best practice that you can only really get from the simplicity of modernism. I don't know where I would be, who I would be. I don't know if I would have the edge that I have, in the various aspects that I have edge, without incorporating a metamodernist approach to being a human in today's society, of having so much that you have to question, of being a consummate and continuous critical thinker and evolver that I have committed to being a specialized generalist or generalized specialist about life. That is, to me, blending those two things, blending those disparate concepts, being able to adapt and blend and code switch. Not even code switch, because I think that actually is a hallmark of postmodernism. It's not even code switching, it's more code hybridizing. I feel like metamodernism is so much about hybridizing. It's so much about not foregoing one for the other, not foregoing A for B, but both A and B, and recognizing, the collaborative efforts of A and B on the process. That's what metamodernism is about, and it's inspired Gemini because Gemini itself is about contrasting, having to deal, having to confront, having to be confident, having to be present for what are really dichotomous and contrasting feelings. I've been in the process of mastering Gemini in this past week with Dan, and one of the things I went over with him is that this is a journey. That this Pixel album as a whole, a part of which Gemini is the second part, is a journey. It's a journey from confusion, of uncertainty, of identity, insecurity, from that into accepting that the ideas that I had about myself, and the ideas that that I had built myself up on as, okay, this is going to happen, and so I'm going to feel this way about it. Letting all of that go, letting all of my expectations, not all my expectations, but letting the expectations that I had that were holding me back and were holding my ability to be present and grateful back, going, like, that whole process, that whole disillusionment process is what Gemini is about. And then Pixel is a celebration. Pixel has a higher energy. It's about transcendence. So this whole process, this whole Pixel era, this whole Pixel project is a journey from confusion to, disappointment, disillusionment, and then back up through transcendence and enlightenment. It's the journey of my quarter life crisis, like I've mentioned before. And the quarter life crisis I've come to discover is being forced to accept and being forced to not be able to forego feeling positive in the midst of a shitty situation. I've been in the midst of a crisis, and great things have happened. Some of the best things in my life have happened during this crisis. And I've had to get to a place where I was crying, worn down, but also so grateful for where I was at. I had to get to a place where I could manage both within my own psyche. I feel like a lot of times we feel like we have to be happy and live in that happiness. Or if we're sad, we need to, stay in that sadness. We feel like that the tug and pull of being happy and sad at the same time, of being light and of feeling lightness and darkness at the same time, of feeling hopeful and also hopeless at the same time, and finding a way to not get stuck in the uncertainty of that and the immobility of that, and still taking action wherever you can. Still, even if that action is writing your journal, even if that action is going for a walk consistently, for 30 minutes or more a day. It's just about doing that. It's just about finding ways to be grateful and mindful of all that you have gone through, remembering where you are, remembering where you've been, remembering all that you contributed to. All of that is very key when going through a crisis. It doesn't bring like 100% peace of mind. It's not going to make you feel like everything is solved, and you're not going to go to bed at night necessarily feeling like everything is solved, but you will wake up in the morning feeling stronger about yourself and able to get yourself out of bed with enough verve to actually get the shit done properly.